Welcome to the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. In this podcast, we inspire advisors with ideas and pathways to break through barriers and build a thriving retirement income business. We will interview innovative technology developers, business leaders, and successful advisors, then help you organize and execute these ideas to move your business forward.
Hey, folks. Welcome to the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. This is Jack Martin. I'm the virtual CMO for InsurMark. I want to welcome you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. This is where advisors from all over the country are coming to level up their practice. And so we've had a whole series of thought leaders over the last few months who have, based on what your feedback has been to us, have really helped them grow their practice. And today is no exception. So I've got Ari Galper coming all the way from Australia to join us today. Ari, for the 5 or 6 people who are listening to this podcast who don't know who you are, tell them a little bit about who you are. Tell us the story about Australia and how you're connected to U.S. advisors. Let's start there and level up.
Sure. So you probably got the accent. I'm from California. I've been in Sydney now for 20 years. I met my wife on a dating site 20 years ago, pre-swiping. Just photo, just text. We had a conversation. She was living in Los Angeles at the time we met there. And then we had our first son, came out here. Been here for 20 years now. So that's the story on the personal side. But I got some coaches in the U.S. as well. But anyway, so yeah, for those who don't know me, I specialize in a unique niche called trust-based selling. For the last 2 decades, believe it or not, I've been just doing this one thing. And what we have figured out is a way to essentially crack the code of compressing the sales cycle for multiple steps with a potential client, and to not to be shopped anymore, not to chase folks, not to do free consulting. We've collapsed that into one single, believe it or not, conversation called the one call sale. That's our biggest breakthrough so far. And we work with a lot of top-end advisors who are in a low volume, high margin model, who every single meeting counts. If they onboard one new client at AUM at $1 million, it's $10K a year that they're earning immediately from that one meeting. So it's a really big deal. So we figured out to crack the code in that, and hopefully we'll share some ideas today on how we go about doing that.
Yeah, I know a number of our advisors have heard you before, and the recommendation came from them that we get you on board. Let me level set a little bit. So I don't know how it was where you grew up in California or in Australia, but when I was in college, we were protesting the war in Vietnam. We were bombing the banks, Bank of America. We didn't trust the man. So there was this big trust deficit. I don't think it was a recession. I think it was a total depression, with respect to trust in institutions, right? So now we fast forward and the world's changed just a little bit. Okay. So those of us that didn't trust the man before now want an advisor in our life that we can trust. Okay. And so, it's changed a lot. And it was really interesting. J.D. Powers released some really amazing research earlier this year, and they were talking about what do consumers want? Okay. So what do consumers want? What do they look for in a financial advisor? And so, of course, at the bottom of the pyramid, they got to answer the phone. They got to have credentials. They got to be competent. At the next tier, it's, they got to have the right kinds of solutions for me. They've got to be nimble, holistic, that sort of thing. But at the very top of the hierarchy, if you will, is this notion that they want someone who gets me. Okay. So I guess it's no surprise that 3 of the 4 largest marketing consulting agencies in the United States for financial advisors are headed by women, because women typically do a better job of those soft skills and understanding and connecting. So that's kind of a long-winded way to get to the setup on this. But so what's changed? Why the emphasis now on the trust and is I know it's been there all along, but how do we get to this point where we've uncovered this huge opportunity for us to use our EQ and use our soft skills and so on? So
it comes down to one single point of contention, and that is that I believe we are now in a commoditized economy where advisors have been commoditized. The market may want all these things, but they see all of, quote, you guys or gals the same way. They can't distinguish between this advisor and that advisor. So they view it as apples to apples as they're shopping around for an advisor, which means they can't judge your competency until after they're a client, not before they're a client. So there's no point in you talking about your value in your firm and how great you are, because that's all just air for them. So what's left? If we can't talk about ourselves, we can't give up value to people, because value as well has been commoditized. What do? Well, my contention is that they care less about what you're offering them, but they care more about, are you the one to work with? So that means that the question they have in the back of their mind when they're hiring you is, do I trust you? Not you, can you solve my problem? They assume you can. You have credentials like a doctor. You walk in, got a white coat on, you're a professional, you can do the job. They're not questioning that. They're questioning, can I trust you? And that's the whole notion and the piece of work we've really optimized that most advisors haven't quite nailed yet, because they grew up in the know, like, and trust model, where you get to know someone, build a relationship with someone, and once they get to like you and know you, they'll work with you. And that's great if you're okay with a long sales cycle. But the challenge now is you're being shopped, and people will take your information and shop someplace else. So the commoditization of the marketplace and the industry is what's caused this trigger to now focus on what I call trust skills.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, investment advice is easy to get. DIY, digital, everywhere. Annuities, easy to get. Life insurance, easy to access. All of those things that used to be
Right.
the exclusive domain of an advisor now are available in lots of places. So you make a really good point. And this thing that you said that's really interesting is that this is a point of differentiation.
Correct.
And so that's what opens the door, is you're different, right?
Yes. Your approach is different, not what you do. That's the real mindset shift, because most advisors come into the conversation with, hey, we're a virtual family office. We have unique service. Like, they just feel like that's what they want from them. But the reality is they're hiring them and judging them on their approach. The approach itself becomes the differentiator, not the value proposition, which is so counterintuitive to what we've been taught to do all these years.
It's a challenge. I mean, if you've been in sales for a minute, you want to talk, you want to sell, all right? And what we've learned is we're not sellers anymore, we're solvers, right? And you can't just go in and offer the same solution to everyone, right? I mean, each person has their own set of needs, right?
Yeah, there's a real shift that has to happen here from salesperson to doctor, meaning you're not a financial advisor anymore. You're a financial doctor. That's a different hat you got to wear, where your job is to diagnose and identify the problem, help them amplify the issue to understand the seriousness of it and the gravity of it. And you have to ask them this question: is this a priority for you to address and resolve once and for all? They have to own the problem and say, can you help me, before you have permission to talk about anything related to you or your solution, which is so counterintuitive, because we're taught to engage, build a relationship, create momentum, move them forward. Forward is the problem. They believe you're trying to sell them something and put pressure on them. So we teach this counterintuitive mindset where your goal is not to move them forward. Your goal is to go what I call down the iceberg, unpack their issues, peel the onion back to such a deep level, they say to themselves, this guy just gets me.
That's it. The thing you said, is this a priority for you? I mean, that there is so much to unpack there when you think about it. So as human beings, we're resistant to change, right? So, I didn't wake up this morning and say, what I need to do is change my life. There was something in my life that created enough pain for me to say, I want to stop this pain. It's the pain of change is less than staying the way I am, right?
Absolutely. And interesting how you mentioned the word do-it-yourselfers. I had another advisor the day, a client of mine said, Ari, I get these leads that are do-it-yourselfers, and they just don't convert. And I said to him, the reason why they're do-it-yourselfers is because they haven't found someone to trust to do it for them. They prefer to hire an expert, but they can't find someone they can connect with, solve that problem of trust. And the do-it-yourselfers will become clients also.
100%. So, even the people we're listening to, are resistant to change, right? And so to make the mindset shift, easy to say, hard to
Yes.
do. So what's the baby step? How do you act your way into a new way of thinking? What's that process look like?
You got to be willing to set your ego aside and say to yourself, I've gotten myself this far with what I know. Okay, things have changed. If I don't upgrade the way I think about this process and have a new skill set, I will not ultimately scale and grow. I will I will either remain the same or plateau. And some advisors are happy staying the same. They have a good book of business, money's coming in, things are stable, small attrition rate, all fine. Great. These people can stay as they are. But there are lots of folks who have a fire inside them, are ambitious, who want to grow. And there are lots of folks out there who need their help. So for those folks, to take the baby step is really about just internally saying, okay, now I think I need help from someone else to help me. And that's so hard when you've been around for 20 years in the business. You got an office full of staff and a big book of business. But here's the big kicker that gets people really on board quickly. This model that we teach and our IP that we have allows the senior or founder of the company to replicate themselves, to teach others in their firm, to allow them to retire and step back without having to worry about the previous younger folks having the same networks as the first guy had, because he built the business with his networking and the old school model. But this model allows them to scale without them being there, which is a huge relief. That's what really kicks them in the gear.
Yeah, 100%. And so that is what I would call the cost of inaction, right? So in the United States, we have clearly defined this problem that firms have with growth. The majority of firms aren't growing, and the reason it looks like they're even growing a little bit is because the really large firms are growing. Okay, and so that's because they can spend a gazillion dollars on TV ads and so on and so forth. They can outmarket you, right? So this notion of the cost of inaction, I think is something that's important not only for the advisor to understand to make this mind shift, but it's important for you to embrace that idea when you're talking to the client, right? The client is in the same shoes. The client is saying, hey, look, I've accumulated $1.5 million in my IRA. I live in a nice neighborhood. The kids all graduated from school, no college debt. Life is wonderful, right? Well, not exactly. Okay, so talk a little bit about that concept and how we uncover that, how we, as you say, get down the layers of the iceberg to find that.
Yeah, that's good. That's the middle layer called COI, cost of inaction. And this is very counterintuitive because when they describe their problem to you, I want to retire next 3 to 5 years. My wife and I are working right now. We have a kid in college. We're not sure how to make the money work the next 30 years. Okay, they come to this problem. The typical advisor hears that because they heard it 100 times, and their system goes, I could fix that. No problem. Done 100 times. And off they go into some brainstorming and then the next step forward. Now, the difference here is what you have to do is peel the onion back behind that problem and help them see the seriousness of it, the gravity of it, and the economic impact of not fixing what they believe the problem to be. Now, that's your job, is to help them do that. And how you do that is with certain phrases like this. Have you considered? Are you aware of? Have you thought about what's costing you every month to overpay your taxes with unnecessary to the government? Have you calculated what it'll cost you to continue to fund your retirement, but possibly run out of money 30 years from now? Have you thought about that? Well, the answer is going to be, of course, no, because that's your job to help them think about it. But you got to help them understand the gravity of their situation, the context of it, and what it's costing them not to fix it. Here's why. If you don't have a business case from their point of view with a cost of inaction, they'll think you're too expensive and won't hire you. There has to be a business case here for your fee. Otherwise, they're not going to hire you because here's the irony of the whole thing, Jack. They don't have to like you to work with you. They just got to respect you and trust you. They don't got to become your friend. So that means your job is to really get this system down right.
Yeah. We use the example of doctors, right? And we've had way too much experience in this house with doctors. And I can tell you, They don't all have great bedside manners, and they don't all have personalities, and I wouldn't want to go to dinner with all of them. But the ones that do the great work, that have saved lives, saved limbs, saved mobility, those are the ones that I want on my team, right? So it's not the old, hey, let's go play golf, let's have a glass of wine situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, doctors don't do coffee for a reason. Okay, because or discovery meetings either, by the way. Okay, because they know if they create a peer relationship with you, then their authority drops and you will not comply with their suggested solution. But a lot of advisors don't get that. They think their job is build rapport, build a relationship, create chemistry. That levels you out and you drop your authority. No longer they're compliant with your request of what you believe is best for them. That's where everybody kind of messes up and doesn't realize it because of the old conditioning.
Yeah. As a financial advisor, I didn't have very many life or death situations with my clients. Okay. But like I would have with doctors. But by the same token, the only thing that I think in this model, that you sell is the problem. You're selling the problem. You're getting them to buy the problem, to understand the problem. And when you do that, now the solution is readily apparent, right?
Yes, you're a heat-seeking missile looking for a problem. You're problem-centric only, not solution-centric. Solutions have been commoditized. Do not talk about solutions at all. You got to reverse engineer your thinking and do a deep dive inside their world and peel back that problem to such a deep extent that they say to themselves, or they say to you, and that's the key trigger is, how can you help us?
That they may not even recognize that they have a problem. We've got good friends, Michael Fink and David Blanchett, brilliant retirement income analyzers, planners, etc. They're not advisors; they're economists. Okay, and what they've discovered is that people, even who have a lot of money, are hesitant to spend as much as they could spend because they're afraid of running out. Okay, and so the consequence of that is that they don't have the lifestyle that they might have that they could really afford if you rearranged their affairs a bit, right? And so they literally found that there's this permission to spend circumstance, all right, where if you enable them to take care of that risk, of longevity, they are more likely to spend. And the way you get there is, so what kind of experiences would you like to have with your kids and grandkids if you had more money to spend? What kind of experiences would you and your wife have? What kind of experiences would you have with your friends and so on, to try and unpack that cost of inaction. The cost of inaction in most cases is not life or death. The cost is lifestyle, right?
Interesting. I love that concept you just said, which is permission to spend. That is so profound because the advisor should be saying to them, I'm going to give you permission to spend your money.
Yes.
They go, huh? I'm going to figure out a way to build what I call a margin of safety at the bottom of your pyramid. And at the top, I'm going to give you a margin of spend. That's going to give you the lifestyle that you could. I'm just thinking out loud how we coach someone on this, but if you frame that right, that's gold. That's beautiful. That's golden.
Yeah, it is. It's powerful. It's really powerful, and I think it does a lot to speak to an advisor about what this cost of inaction is about.
Yeah,
It's about what's the cost of not doing something, and there's this whole area that we're uncovering about humanizing retirement and what that means. And so a friend of ours said, here's a super powerful question that you should have your clients ask back to you, which is, talking to your wife, where would you like to go to dinner tonight, and who would you like to invite? Okay. So when you unpack that question, we need to live in an area where we have access to resources like restaurants, right? We need to have the health to be able to go out and do that. We need to have the relationships to be able to invite people to join us, and we need to have the finances to be able to afford that. All of those are four key components to a robust retirement, we've learned, and to happiness in retirement. And so, there are just lots of levers you can pull, as an advisor. It's a target-rich environment out there for folks that are looking for good advice.
Well, the irony of all this is no lack of opportunity. There are thousands of people looking for help from an advisor they can't get from the current one. That's why they're all out searching on Facebook, clicking our ads. So we know the market's there. That's not the issue. The problem is converting them and have no trust enough to say to you these two words, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in.
Why did it take multiple meetings and all this free planning to say the two words, I'm in? Because they don't trust you enough to say that.
Yeah.
So how do we compress that is the magic to all this.
You're absolutely right. And so we approach, life from a marketing perspective. I'm the CMO. And so, we look at it through that lens, but really, it's not about getting more leads. It's, as you said, it's about converting them. And the conversion process isn't this mechanical feature benefit close kind of situation. It's this unpacking and selling the problem and solving the problem that they have, right?
Yeah, it's about flipping the model, okay? The typical marketing model is a funnel. Looks like this, right? You put as much in it at the top as you can. The marble's rolling out all your time. Unqualified people, at the end, a few come out. That's how people think about marketing and sales. In this new economy, it's not about a funnel. It's about a cylinder, okay? It's a narrow little angle thing. You only drop in your ideal clients, and all of them become new clients. They all come out the bottom. You don't waste... See, the diminishing return value that advisors have is their time. And to spend time chasing with multiple meetings, doing free consulting with unqualified folks or qualified ones is a waste of their time. So they got to marry those two together.
You're absolutely right. And it's really, what we talk about is getting aligned. Okay. There are lots of people out there looking for help. Figure out what kind of help you're best suited to provide. Okay. And then let folks know. All right. And when they come through the front door, be prepared to engage with them about that problem. If you're super expert and you want to take on two problems, then great. If you want to do retirement and taxes, Superman, awesome. But by the same token, if everybody who comes to you is looking for help with retirement, going to be an easy conversation from a technical perspective. The challenge is going to be uncovering what their issue is, right?
Well, I'll go further than that and saying that your goal is to market the problems, not market yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, which is so counterintuitive because we've been discussed our firm, our brand, our USP, our story. Who cares about your story? All they care about is their story. It's like all these consultants selling the services. We'll do your story for you. We'll do your brand. I'm like, are you kidding me?
They don't care about your story until they know you understand about their story.
They care about your story after they're a client, not before.
Yes. So that they can tell the story to their friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
Wow, you won't believe what my advisor Ari did for me this week.
Yeah, there's pre-sale and there's post-sale. You can't mix them together. Most advisors mix it all together as if like they're already the best friend on the first meeting.
Yeah.
No. That's after. Real relationships take time. You cannot build a relationship with someone pre-sale in a short amount of time. It's impossible because that's not how humans work. They got to get to know you over time, but you don't have the time to waste in the sales process. So you kind of marry this thing together.
Seriously, if you go to the ER, you don't need a relationship with the neurosurgeon. Okay? All you need is for the neurosurgeon to save your brain. That's what you need, right?
Right.
So, and really, I believe that one of the key metrics of success for advisors going forward is going to be how quickly can you build trust with clients?
That's right. The speed of trust, that good old book. But what's different now is we've actually come up with a system for this and a framework with what I call trust-based languaging, not fact-finding questions, but trust-based questions that make it super streamlined to the extent now where typically your meeting should not go more than 30 minutes and get an onboarding commitment right there and then.
Yeah.
Anything past that, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap this up, so what should an advisor do first? Mindset, I think you mentioned. So, what nuggets do you have for them, to get started on this?
If they resonate with our discussion today, I would say get a copy of my book, honestly, and start understanding this concept, the mindset. And the book is the Trust Book. You can get a free copy at www.thetrustbook.com. Grab a copy of my book. It doesn't cost you a penny. No downloads. We'll mail it to you in the mail in a nice little envelope in a box. Read it. If it resonates with you, then we can go from there. But I think the key is you have to have an open mind and be willing to be challenged around your assumptions. And only a small percentage of advisors are open to that. Most struggle with the idea of having to learn something new after so many years in the business because they think, yeah, I've been in sales for so many years. What am I? Come on, look at my book of business I got a huge AOM. But then they don't understand that they won't be around forever, and the people behind them got to learn how to sell too.
Hey, yeah, look, I've been a financial advisor myself for 3 decades, CFP, RIA, et cetera, right? And I can tell you if that mindset will cause you to be roadkill. So when I started, first thing we did when we opened our shop was we became CFPs. And all of our peers were saying, what the heck is wrong with you? Why are you wasting all that time? Who's going to do business with a certified financial planner? Who's going to tell you all about their stuff? Go out there and sell these front-end load mutual funds. Go out there and sell these front-end load annuities. What is this asset management stuff? Write tickets. Get those ticket charges in there, Dude, they're all dead. Those guys are history. They're in the rearview mirror. And the same thing is happening here. Yes, we've embraced this notion of AUM. Yes, we've embraced this notion of being able to do holistic planning, but the model has changed. As you said, we're commoditized now. That's the challenge.
Yeah. So the industry has broadened their view of how to do the work itself, but not the pre-sale process to get the work.
It's the people component that we've really lagged. And I think that that's one of the things that's come out of COVID. We came to appreciate the importance of connection, of emotional connections, and being able to find someone that you would trust and value that. So I really think that there's some of that came out of the COVID situation. So
I agree. Look, selling is a dysfunctional relationship. Okay, the old way. Okay, that's the way I look at it. And, my son, he has Down syndrome, and I wrote a book about him called Lessons from Toby. And he's taught me this sort of notion of having no hidden agenda, having no assumptions with people, and not attempting to move them to a place they don't want to go to, but be present with them. And I think once you kind of get that thinking down, wrapped with our processes, man, everything is just so fluid and effortless. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to do.
it is. I can tell you from our experience, the advisors who are embracing this more humanized approach, at a lot of levels, the lifestyle, retirement income planning, the trust building, all of that are having huge success. So it's people want it. It's magnetic. So
Yeah.
Ari, this has been fabulous. This has been a great conversation. Thank you very much. I know we're going to give our advisors lots of opportunities to hear more from you. Check out, is it Unlock the Sale?
Just my name, arigalper.com is fine. To get the book itself, just go to thetrustbook.com, order it there, schedule a chat with us, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. All right. Hey, Ari, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us today. Hey, folks, this has been the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe wherever you get your podcast downloaded. There are links in the transcript where you can get access to Ari if you didn't jot those down. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of InsurMark. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.